My first memory of basketball as a little kid happened in Game 1 of the 1992 NBA Finals between the Chicago Bulls and Portland Trail Blazers, what would later go down as the infamous shrug game after Michael Jordan sank 6 three-pointers in the first half of that game, which at the time was unheard of compared to what you see in today's NBA. Michael would look at the scores table and simply shrug, as even he himself couldn't believe how much of a heater he was on. After that game, I was glued to that final series and was hooked on the game of basketball ever since. MJ became my childhood idol, the man that got me into the game, the man that had me drop everything whenever the Chicago Bulls were playing on TV. Homework and friends be damned, the Bulls were playing, and watching the greatest player of all time took precedent over everything else. So when Jordan retired in 1998 and left the game of basketball going out with a bang on one of the greatest shots in NBA history, taking home his 6th title, I knew then no one was ever going to be able to top this man as the greatest to ever do it. When people started claiming Kobe Bryant as the next Michael Jordan going into the early 2000s, I simply scoffed and said they didn't know basketball. And so when LeBron James came onto the scene as a high school teenager, being touted as the greatest high school prospect the game had ever seen, a player that was going to be the next coming of Michael Jordan, a player that could surpass MJ as the greatest player of all time, I laughed in their faces. And as a high school teenager myself, my irrational dislike, damn near hatred for LeBron James grew and grew. How could a high school kid who had never stepped foot on the court of an NBA basketball game already be talked about and compared to Michael Jordan? Even after LeBron entered the league and right away showed everyone that he was legit and belonged on the biggest stage, for years I still irrationally hated on the man, looking for every flaw, looking for every misstep to try and discredit him, to prove that he was never going to surpass my GOAT, my childhood hero. It wasn't until my early 20s to mid-20s that I truly started to recognize and appreciate the greatness of LeBron James, a player that was so good and doing so with such dominance and consistency that I had to acknowledge and admit that he was on the level of being one of the greatest players of all time, and that it wasn't simply a hot take or a delusion to put him in the same stratosphere as Michael Jordan. LeBron James deserved his flowers, and that would continue to be the case the further and further his career went along. Year after year of sheer dominance, year after year of being the best player in the NBA, year after year, over 2 decades of still being one of the biggest names and one of the best players in the league. Playing at this level for this long, quite literally, was something we had never seen before, and something even Michael Jordan could not reach. What LeBron James is doing was unprecedented. A now 40-year-old not only still playing, but still playing at a high level and one of the best players in the league. Yes, LeBron isn't the player that he used to be, and yes, we've seen probably the biggest decline in his play this season, but at the age of 40, LeBron is still averaging nearly a triple-double on solid efficiency and still impacting the court in his 22nd season in the league. No one, and I mean no one, would have predicted that the kid from Akron, Ohio back in 2003 would still be delivering greatness for over 2 decades. But while LeBron reaches the tail end of his career and will soon set off into the sunset of retirement, some of us have forgotten or failed to appreciate just how remarkable his career has been and his insane longevity that we likely will never witness again. So in this video, with LeBron having just passed his 40th birthday, we're going to go over some mind-boggling facts about his career and sustained success over time that no other NBA player has ever even come close to touching. As always, if you're new to the channel and you like this type of content, be sure to subscribe to help the channel grow, and in return I'll be providing more NBA content like this. Now, to illustrate just how astonishing LeBron's longevity over the course of his career has been, consider this for a moment. There have been 30 players in NBA history who have played at least one game after turning 40 years old. Of the players in the modern NBA era that have played beyond the age of 40, not a single one of them averaged more than 15 points per game. The player that had the most successful season as a 40-year-old was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who put up 14.6 points per game and 6 rebounds and 1.2 blocks. Kareem would go on to be an all-star in his age 40 season as well as his age 41 season, but that was really more of an honorary all-star selection to complete his entire career, having been selected as an all-star every season in which he played. By the time Kareem was 40, he was a shell of what he used to be, one of the greatest players in the game and the greatest big man of his generation. The oldest player in the modern day era of basketball to ever suit up and check into an NBA game was Kevin Willis at age 44, having only played 5 games when he was 44. And this was after taking a year off in retirement the season prior. By the time Kevin Willis was 40, he could barely manage to tally 4 points per game while averaging 11 minutes and looking completely gassed by the end of it. Everyone, of course, knows Vince Carter, the human highlight reel, the slam dunk champion that made that contest cool again in 2000. He's the only player also in NBA history to play in 4 separate decades, having been drafted in 1998 and would eventually retire in 2020. Vince Carter, the Hall of Famer, 8-time All-Star, incredibly gifted scorer. By the age of 40, though, he could barely get to the rim to throw down a dunk. Vince Carter would play until the age of 43 and would also set the record for most seasons played in an NBA career at 22 seasons. That is until LeBron James tied that record by entering his 22nd NBA season this year. His 22nd season, 40 years old, and still putting up 23, 8, and 9 on the road to being selected to his 21st All-Star game, and still incredibly impactful when he's on the court. This man, simply put, is not human. Think about this. All of these current NBA players weren't even born when LeBron James first entered the league in 2003. Yes, that includes guys like Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson. Oh, and a player he literally created himself in Bronny James. Even though he probably shouldn't be in the NBA, but we won't go there for now. How about this for a wild stat? LeBron James averaged 27 points per game, 7 rebounds and 7 assists, and 2.2 steals, and was selected to the All-NBA second team and finished 6th in MVP voting the year that Victor Wembanyama was born. In Wemby's rookie season last year, LeBron averaged 26, 7, and 8 and was selected All-NBA third team. We've never seen anything like this in sports history and will probably never witness it again. Some of the biggest stars in the game today who have already had illustrious careers in the league were straight up children when LeBron was already dunking on people like it was just another Sunday in the NBA. Giannis was 9 years old when LeBron was a rookie. Jokic, probably the age of the infamous photo with his shirt off, was also only 9 years old. Luka Doncic was still in preschool at just the age of 4. Jason Tatum was learning his ABCs in kindergarten at age 5. Paolo Banchero was still in diapers at the age of 1. Even Kevin Durant, who has been in the league for 16 years and by NBA standards would be considered old, was walking into his freshman year at high school when LeBron James debuted in the league. Players who have come into the league after LeBron James would go on to have amazing careers, some future Hall of Famers, and have already entered retirement. Guys like Dwight Howard, Andre Iguodala, LaMarcus Aldridge, yes, even his current coach and JJ Redick, Derrick Rose, Blake Griffin, John Wall, Gordon Hayward, guys who were seemingly in the league for years, but have already come and gone in the time period that LeBron has been in the NBA. In 2003, when LeBron was drafted, George W. Bush was still in his first term in office as president. The #1 song that year topping the Billboard charts was 50 Cent's In the Club. Lord of the Rings Return of the King had just debuted. The iPod Classic 3rd generation had just been released. Nintendo's GameCube and PlayStation 2s were the latest gaming consoles at that time, and wireless internet was just becoming a thing and all the rage at the time that LeBron James was drafted. Want to hear some wild facts about LeBron's longevity? LeBron holds the record for most minutes played combined between the regular season and playoffs at over 69,000 minutes on the court. That's the equivalent of over 1,100 hours, 48 straight days, 24/7 nonstop action of NBA level basketball. The mileage on LeBron's belt is astronomical in modern sports history, and yet he's still outplaying guys in their primes in their mid-20s. While some have questioned LeBron's longevity and whether or not he's used performance-enhancing drugs to enable him to sustain this level of success over so many years, even I myself have questioned it at times, just remember that LeBron has spent a fortune, over $1 million a year, to keep his body in tip-top shape, and also remember that the league actively drug tests its players. And look, while LeBron is still playing at a high level at age 40, if you've been following the league for a while and you remember LeBron's playing days from his mid to late 20s, you know he's clearly not the same player that he once was. Not as quick, not as explosive, not as athletic, clearly not the defender that he used to be. But LeBron, because of his IQ, has adapted his game over time to be an even better facilitator and has found ways to still be impactful despite losing a step. LeBron, yes, has declined. There is no doubt about that. It's just his prime was so good that we have a hard time seeing his decline when he's still playing like an all-star in this league. Eventually, although we've been saying this for years, LeBron will retire from the game of basketball. In fact, even he himself has said it will likely come sooner than we all think, stating that he doesn't want to play until the wheels come off. There will be a generation of young basketball players who have never known the NBA without LeBron James. For most of my life, LeBron has been a dominant force and face of the league. And while I didn't appreciate his greatness in the early days of his career because of my devotion to Michael Jordan, it will be a sad day when LeBron hangs it up and leaves the game of basketball for good. We have never seen a player like him before. We have never had the pleasure to witness greatness for so many years, and it's very possible we will never witness anything like it again. I would love to hear what you guys think, though. Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.